Hi, I'm Jackson Bliss, and this is the Dream Pop Origami channel. In today's video, I'm going to talk about how to stay safe from COVID-19. So I'm currently recovering from COVID-19. This is the first time I know for a fact that I've had it. I've probably had it before. I feel like we all have in the past 2 or 3 years, but this is the first time I know for a fact that I did. My wife and I got a bunch of rapid COVID antigen tests. And for some weird reason, I kept getting these false negatives over and over again, even though my symptoms were identical to my wife's, and even though I pretty much got it 2 or 3 days after her, so it was sequential in the way that, viral infection tends to be. Finally, I got one a couple days ago, and it all makes sense. And as I'm struggling with emotions and what I'm going through physically as I recover from it, I realized I kind of want to make a video about this, because I think all of us are so tired of talking about the pandemic that we've stopped realizing the simple things we can do to stay healthy. And that's what this video is going to be about. So there's 3 major things I want to talk about, and then a 4th smaller thing that's just kind of sum up. It's going to be like the coda of this short video. I don't have the endurance, I don't have the energy to make a longer video. I'm just, I'm just tired. I'm just really tired, and because I'm really tired, I just can't make a video that's longer than 10 minutes. I just don't have it in me. I can feel okay for a couple minutes, and then all of a sudden I get really hot or I get really tired, and that's classic COVID behavior, as a lot of you know. Let's talk about the main ways in which you can stay safe from COVID, with the understanding that it's incredibly difficult to stay safe 100% of the time simply because of how contagious COVID-19 is. But after I started researching videos on YouTube, I found a strange dearth of videos about COVID-19 and how to stay safe in 2022 and now 2023. So let's get into it. So this is just my perspective. I'm obviously not an expert in public health or epidemiology or virology, nor do I claim to be. But as someone who has lived in a number of large and small urban environments, both small cities and large cities, metropolitan environments, international urban environments, population centers, and also a couple small towns, there's just a couple things I think worth considering. So let's do this. Number 1, in order to stay safe, you have to protect yourself. This seems obvious, but a lot of people and a lot of Americans are doing a terrible job of doing it. So let's just start from the basics. So the first thing is get your boosters. Let me just start there. Get your booster. Get your boosters. One of the biggest things you can do for yourself is to stay up to date on your COVID boosters. End of story. Some of you who are maybe vaccine hesitant or simply don't know a lot about vaccines might say, what's the point of getting a vaccine when the vaccines are pretty much obsolete? One of the issues with vaccine updates is by the time a vaccine has been updated to accommodate different subvariants, there's probably a new variant. That is true. But this doesn't deny the fact that vaccines and boosters, by extension, are overwhelmingly important nevertheless in public health. And here's why. When you get your boosters, when you get your vaccines, what's happening is this. You're not immune from getting COVID. There's a huge misconception that vaccines should prevent you from getting COVID-19. That's not what vaccines do. That's not what they've ever done. What a vaccine will do is make sure that you don't get the most lethal manifestations of that virus. What vaccines do, what the COVID-19 booster does, is make sure you stay out of the hospital. It makes sure that you don't have the most dangerous manifestations of COVID-19. In other words, you will still get symptoms, just like I did, but they won't be nearly severe, they won't last nearly as long, and you will recover quickly. And I'm living proof of that. I had symptoms 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm already on the mend. Yes, I will need a couple more days, but it's been very fast. And for some of my friends who didn't get boosted or are immunocompromised, this could be a 2 or 3 week battle. So trust me when I say this, get your boosters. You can protect yourself by wearing masks. Wear a mask when you're on mass transit. Wear a mask whenever you take a Lyft, whenever you're on Uber. Wear a mask whenever you fly. Flying is one of the best ways to transmit diseases because you're in small, confined spaces, all sharing recycled air, and you can't escape or maintain the distance you need. And don't take it off until you're in the house or in the building of someone who you know is safe. Also, wear a mask whenever you know you'll be in a confined space for a long amount of time. Of course, go to that concert, but just wear a mask for yourself, to protect yourself, so that you don't come home a week later and be like, I feel terrible. Here's another thing. Normalize mask wearing whenever you think, even feel the slightest hint of sickness. Also, normalize wearing a mask and or staying home if you suspect that someone you're going to hang out with might be sick. It's important for you to advocate for your own health. That means asking your friends and family and coworkers to make sure that they take care of their own health, because when they do, they're also taking care of yours. Next, have a box of rapid COVID antigen tests available. If you feel any symptoms whatsoever, you can take one and after the first, maybe the second time, get the results that you need. And then that allows you to make informed decisions to protect everyone else. But you can't do that if you don't have the information, and you can't get the information if you don't have the test. So just get in the habit of having some tests around. You don't have to stack it up like some end of days doomsayer. Just get a box of 3 to 4 and take one whenever you're about to spend a significant amount of time with people and or go to the holidays, the instant you sense or feel any symptoms at all. Next, read the news. Contrary to what many people think, your news is one of your best sources of public health information because these databases are constantly being updated. They're updated by every state health agency, they're updated by the National Institute of Health, they're updated by all the national agencies whose job it is to analyze, observe, and make sense of information when it comes to epidemiology, when it comes to infection rates. So look to the highest and best news sources to keep tabs on what's going on in your state, in your city, in your county, and in your country. If you're about to fly to New Orleans and then you look and you realize that it's the reddest part of the entire nation, then yeah, maybe don't go or wear a mask the whole time. You'll thank yourself later on. Next, ask your friends to monitor their health when you're going to hang out with them. Something as simple as, hey, we're all healthy, we're all doing good, right? Just want to make sure before we meet up. You can even make up a story like, my Aunt Sue, she got kind of sick because her friends didn't give a fuck, so I just want to make sure we're not gonna, give each other anything. Whatever you need to do that for yourself. It's a form of self-advocacy. Last thing, and I know this is going to be wildly unpopular, and I know your friends and family will absolutely hate me for this, but if you're going to meet up with your fam or friends for a major holiday like Thanksgiving, like Christmas, whatever, ask them to take a test before they leave. And if they test positive, tell them to stay the hell home. If they refuse, they won't comply, then take the matters into your own hands. Just simply pass out little rapid tests as people arrive. It doesn't mean they have to leave, but they're gonna have to wear a mask the entire time if the results are bad. And frankly, you should be grateful because now you know the person who would have infected you, you've neutralized the situation to the best of your ability, and you're still including them as well as you can. I know this is a crazy idea, but it's literally something that my wife and I are going to do for the next holidays. Why? Because my brother, even though I love him to death, he came with a cold, we all got it. My wife, who came back from seeing her family in Chicago, she came back with COVID, now I have it. This has to be sort of a baseline thing that we do, and we can't treat people like they're being extremists simply because they're trying to protect their health. Let's normalize this activity of each of us protecting ourselves and one another. Number 2, learn how to protect others, which is just as important as learning how to protect yourself and is intricately interconnected with how you protect yourself. So this means that if you feel sick for any reason, stay the hell home. No one wants to see your ass anyways. You won't be good company. You won't be funny. You won't be interesting. You won't learn anything. You won't even be able to pay attention. If you feel even slightly sick, don't lie to yourself. Don't pretend you're not sick. Stay home. You could be protecting all of your friends and family by doing so. Next, if your boss and or your family and or your friends will not let you stay home even though you know that you should, explain your health concerns and argue that it'd be far worse if the business lost half its workforce when everyone's sick than it would be for you to simply stay home for 3 to 5 days and work remotely. That's a rational argument that anyone, even a greedy capitalist, can understand completely. Most people understand that it's better if you stay home. Appeal to the rational and humane side. Next, if you can't get out of an event, whether it's like a concert that you bought tickets for, a year ago, something like an mandatory meeting that all employees are required to go to, a funeral, some sort of family event that you can't get out of, in that case, my advice is take a COVID test before you leave and wear a mask the whole time. That way you can protect others and yourself. It doesn't really matter whether it's cold or COVID. You shouldn't want to give that to anyone else. You shouldn't want anyone else to get sick, and you shouldn't want to spread your misery to other people. If you do, you're kind of a bad person. Number 3. Generally speaking, Asian countries are simply better at wearing masks than Americans are. And there's a lot of historical and cultural reasons for that, and I won't get into most of those, but it's worth considering some things. First off, Asians wear masks, but one of the big things that's important in a lot of Asian cultures, like for example, my Oba-chan's culture, Japanese culture, one important value is protecting and respecting the group and making those needs more important than individual. Of course, this seems anti-American, but there should be a way for us to find a middle ground between the individual self at all costs and the group. And maybe what we should start thinking about is there are circumstances like medical crises, for example, when we need to think about the group and not just ourselves. One of my big issues with Americans during the entire pandemic was the level of sheer selfishness displayed. The fact is, it's not reasonable or fair or humane. It's not fair or rational or even logical to ask every old person, every immunocompromised person, every person with a disability that they should just stay home so that they don't risk themselves. If the rest of this country simply protected themselves and others, everyone would have a space to thrive and survive and not have their health be compromised. So, one thing I'd like more Americans to do is think about the common good. What are things we can do that are the best for the most people? After all, this country was partially founded on some of the principles of utilitarianism, but we don't act as utilitarians. We are not doing what is good for the greatest majority of people. We are doing what's great for me. Ultimately, this country's obsession with freedom can't be a pretext to do things that hurt others. Yes, you have a lot of freedom in this country, but you don't have the freedom to hurt others. You never do. You can do whatever you want, but the instant the things you do hurts your neighbor, hurts your friend, hurts your wife in any way, you become liable. We know that freedom is not absolute in this country. But even if it were, and to be clear, it's not, I think as Americans we have to consider the ways in which we protect society and sometimes relegate some of our own personal needs, and other times when we stand up for our individual needs. There aren't necessarily obvious answers to all these questions. But one thing most of us should be able to agree on is we should be making decisions both in terms of public health policy and individual behavior that helps the most people. And what that means is if you simply stay up to date on your vaccination boosters, and if you wear a mask, if you're sick or if you think someone else is, you will benefit the gross majority of Americans. You will help the greatest number of Americans. You will help the greatest number of people, period. This leads me to my fourth and final point. I know we all have pandemic fatigue. I'm fucking tired of it. You're tired of it. I'm tired of wearing a mask. Everyone I know is tired of wearing a mask. We're all burnt out. But here's the thing. Viruses don't give a shit about your feelings. You know that quote that was often used to trigger liberals? Well, it's actually true about virology too. It's true about epidemiology too. Viruses, stats don't care about your feelings. So while you and I might be totally tired of wearing masks, taking tests, I think we all can agree on that. The reality is COVID-19 is not going away. So We need to adapt in a way that protects ourselves and others and gives us the best quality of life. Some of the things that I talked about in this video, they're really our best chance. Do I wish I didn't have to wear a mask? Absolutely. I'm going to be nostalgic about not wearing a mask for the rest of my life. But I think the delusion here that some people have is that we can simply afford to not wear masks anymore. The delusion is this isn't a problem anymore. The delusion is we've basically gotten over the hump. No, we have a better understanding of it than we used to. And no one's saying you have to wear a mask all the time, every day. But there are specific circumstances in which you need to take matters into your own hands, both to protect your own health and to protect others, your friends, your family, your community, your neighborhood, your synagogue, your parish, your Buddhist monastery, wherever it is. And the best way to do that is to stay updated in information, wear masks whenever necessary, test yourself to protect others and yourself, ask others to do the same, and to respect each other's lives, understanding that each of us has a different body, story, immune system, level of ability, resistance, finance, healthcare accessibility, etc. And that's why, at minimum, we should be able to do these things. So that's my advice. I think if you follow them, you will be happier, and I think you will be much healthier too. I wish you all luck. Now I'm gonna go and sit on my couch and play Persona 5 because I'm winded after talking for 10 minutes. I'm legit exhausted because I'm not totally healthy yet, but I'll be there soon. Peace.